Good morning. This is the Bob Unger Show, and we are truly honored to have a lady, a real lady. There aren't that many real ladies anymore these days on the show. And her name is Barbara from Harlem, and I first learned about her when I happened just by accident, or what they call God's way of working anonymously. Coincidence, God's way of working anonymously. And I saw this lady giving a speech at a Constitution camp
Oh, yes.
in New England area. And it was so refreshing to hear Barbara from Harlem speaking on this video, because with everything that's been going on with interracial hatred, here was a woman who loved people and loved America.
Yes.
We want to learn from Barbara, who's also the author of a book called Escaping the Racism of Low Expectations. And can they order that book online?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yes, they can go to Amazon and any of the other popular outlets. Plus, they can go to our website and order it from us, and I'll send them an autographed copy.
And what is the website?
BarbaraFromHarlem.com.
Okay. Well, Barbara, the first question I'd like to ask, and this is a question I usually ask everybody.
Okay.
What is it about you that unfortunately makes you very different? Because today it's unfortunate to be different in the sense that normal people years ago used to think just like you. But today, common sense is not common. So
It's not.
what made it that you don't hate white people? What made it that you love America? Because I have found that in the past year, and I'm a person who, as an attorney and also as a human being, has helped many people. I've even helped people pay their rent.
Wow.
Some of these people who I helped pay their rent all of a sudden turned on me.
Mm.
They became white hating racists.
Yes. Yes.
And they forgot the things I did for them because they are so brainwashed,
Yes.
insane hatred, especially now. And
Yes.
that made it so that you were impervious to that.
Mm, 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 mm. That's such a sad state of affairs. And I've heard that from several people who don't happen to be Black, that they've helped many Black people. Now, all of a sudden, they're their worst enemies. That is so sad. Well, when my mother and my grandmother introduced me to God as a young girl, I remember from going to church about love thy neighbor. And that stuck with me throughout my life. Excuse me.
Sure.
I couldn't see myself going through life hating people because of the color of their skin, because the acknowledgement of knowing that there is a God who made all of us, and some of us we look a little different, but we're all human beings. So that stuck with me from childhood. I've had an incident in the first chapter of my book, an incident with a KKK member. But that was no reason for me to start hating white people. And I just thank God so much that I didn't get caught up in that brainwashing, because my mother, my grandmother, and my relatives taught me to always think for yourself. My grandmother used to say, don't use your head just as a hat rack. Think. So those are the things that stuck with me. And unfortunately, a lot of our young people and our children are not getting those basic lessons. So they can be easily brainwashed into not even thinking for themselves when people like Sly Jackson and Sharp Tongue get out there and say no justice, no peace. they use that as an excuse, hating white people as an excuse for the many failures in their lives, even beginning in their childhood, because blacks have a 73+% of our children not born in stable families, born to single-headed households. That puts them at a disadvantage from birth, economically, socially, morally, and spiritually.
And you
And
know,
I,
it's
yes,
interesting, Barbara.
yes,
I apologize for interjecting,
that's all right.
but what you just said, they would call me a racist if
Yes,
that, even though a factist. I'm a factist, not a racist. That's
right.
a fact.
Yes,
And when you bring that up, the reason
right.
I'm mentioning this, I was talking to a big shot from Major League Baseball.
Hmm.
It was a number of years ago. And he said to me, this idiot, he said, "Oh, we have a big problem. We don't have enough blacks playing Major League Baseball." And I said, "Let me tell you why that is. Every school has a schoolyard and a
Yes,
basketball court. So any boys who want can go and play basketball. But in order to play baseball, you need a father.
yes,
Classic case of the father in the backyard or wherever having
yes,
a catch with his son." And I
yes,
told him, because so many black kids don't have a father, their mother does the best she can.
yes,
Generally, she doesn't have the time to be having a baseball game with her son. Some do, but some cannot. And
right.
he said to me, that is a very racist statement.
That's a very true statement. Very true. Yes, that's not being racist. Those are the facts, period.
Yeah, I told him I didn't create those facts.
Absolutely.
In
You know,
fact, go ahead.
even
I'm
in
sorry.
even in my family, I had a brother. My oldest brother was brilliant, had a photogenic memory and all of that, did well in school. When my mother and my father separated, when my father left the family, my brother went from being an A student in school to a thug on the corner. He got into drugs. He got into everything, to violence. He was the warlord of the sportsman gang. All of this home life that we had went up in smokes. My mother in smoke. My mother had to work night and day to try to keep a roof over our heads. So we were many times unsupervised. His life went downhill. All of our lives went downhill. My brother ended up dying in Sing Sing prison.
And
That's what happened with
and you
no
didn't
father in the home.
and you never blamed that on Whitey.
Never, never. When my
Yes.
husband left me with 5 children, he walked out. He was a police officer. He walked out, left me with 5 children. That wasn't the white man's fault. That was his selfishness.
Right. Right.
His selfishness.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, what's so ironic is I've spoken to a lot of black people who are 70, 80, 90 years old. Some
Uh-huh.
of them were sharecroppers at the very end in the South.
Right.
And there was definitely Jim Crow and discrimination.
Yes.
And yet they have said to me, they never hated people,
Never.
even back in those days. And today,
Yes.
young punks who have
Yes.
every advantage today,
Yes. Yes.
they hate people in a way that the old folks way back in the South never hated.
No. No. You're absolutely right. My grandmother was born in 1898. I never heard Big Mama ever talk bad about white people. The only thing she told me when we came down there to visit, she says, if you're on the sidewalk and a white person is on the sidewalk, you're supposed to get off the sidewalk. That was it. That was during the Jim Crow days where you had the fountains that said colored and white. But she never said anything ugly about white people. She never blamed them for anything. She worked, my grandfather worked, he was the first Black policeman in DeLand, Florida. They owned property, they owned businesses, etc., etc. They lived a beautiful and productive and successful life, both of them.
And you know, my people, the Jewish people,
Yes,
they were instrumental in helping many, many Black people, marching with Martin Luther King,
yes,
representing them as
yes,
attorneys. And yet, there is so much today anti-Jewish.
yes.
How do you explain that?
I blame a lot of it on the churches, unfortunately, and people like Sharp Tongue and Sly Jackson. But as a Democrat, I was a member of several Democratic clubs. I have all of this, in my book. And they always taught to remember slavery. White people were responsible for that. They also pushed an agenda of hatred toward Jews. They painted them as the worst landlords in the world. I was a member, one of the clubs I was a member of, Charlie Rangel was the leader. And I can tell you that I heard with these ears the ugliest stuff coming from him and other Democratic clubs. And then to top it off, when you go into the churches, most of the churches are nothing but another arm of the Democratic Party. You go into the churches and it's pounded in your head that the church has replaced the Jewish people. They have,
Replacement
so
theology.
all of this is coming from the pulpits, from social gatherings all over the place. And unfortunately, a lot of Black people have bought into it. They believe it, and they have a hatred. They're anti-Semitic, period.
Even though the Bible,
Yes.
Christians also follow the Jewish Bible, said
Yes.
God gave an eternal covenant to
Yes.
him and his progeny.
Yes. Yes. That's why, a lot of Black people belong to the Democratic Party, and they don't see how the Democratic Party does not support Israel because they've become so godless.
Yes.
They've become so godless. They hate the mention of Jewish people because that reminds them that there is a God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Yes. I think you're exactly right, because the Jews were supposed to be a light unto the nation, to bring God's morality to the nations of the world.
Yes.
And so they hate the carrier of God's morality,
Yes.
because God says that a man belongs with a woman,
Not a man.
man, right?
Right.
And so, and many liberal Jewish people are guilty of the same thing. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, that's true.
You know,
That's true.
I don't I don't lower my criticism. I'm
Yes.
equal opportunity criticizer.
I heard that.
But you know, it's so great, real honesty. In fact, I heard Dr. Thomas Sowell, the great Black economist, and author,
Yes.
I heard him talking the other day, and he was talking about hating Jews. And
Right.
you know, he grew up in Harlem, actually, and he talked about the fact, if you want to get Blacks to stop hating Jews, all Jews should become a failure, and then nobody will hate them.
True.
You know,
Yes.
jealousy is a terrible, terrible trait.
It's a monster.
Yes, it
Yes.
murder.
Yes.
You know, you would think that if you're in many Black communities are near or adjacent to Jewish communities,
Right.
so you would think that many Black elders would want to connect with Jews and Jewish business people,
Right.
their kids to learn from those people who are successful instead
Absolutely.
of hating them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. You know, for a number of years, I worked at Yeshiva University up on 181st Street.
You're kidding. I used to hang out there.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Wow. Well, I worked there for a number of years. I only met one Jewish lady, Barbara, who was trying to get a divorce. Other than that, even attending the Jewish weddings, I saw fathers walking down the aisle with the bride. I saw families intact and together. And and I only met one Black woman at Yeshiva. She worked there also, who was still married. Other than that, the rest of us, we didn't have husbands, but the Jewish family is one of their major strengths, that family unit. And and it's so sad. Sometimes people will ask me about my necklace. I wear a cross and I wear a Star of David. And they say, well, why do you wear Star of David? I said, without Judaism, there is no Christianity.
My dad, you're talking about Yeshiva University.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad used to take me to the synagogue they have there in the big building,
Uh-huh.
187th Street.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful old synagogue.
Yes, yes.
And my dad would take me on the holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Uh-huh.
And all these low-life politicians would come around.
Wow.
Campaign on the Jewish high holy days and go up to shake hands and stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
My father was standing outside with me. I was just a little boy. And he's talking to some Jewish people. And all of a sudden, this pig, Bella Abzug, walks over to my father. And she's walking to the wrong guy. And she put out her hand because she was glad handing everybody and she wanted to shake his hand.
Uh-huh.
My father looked at her and said, "Get away from me, you communist whore."
Oh,
That's a true story. My father did not pull any punches.
he spoke his mind.
Big time. You could see where I got it from.
You know it.
And she was so shocked because nobody had ever spoken to her that way, because these politicians, they think they're God.
They do. They do.
Actually, where they're going, God isn't going to be around. Where they're going.
Not at all. That's right.
She was so shocked because nobody had ever gotten up in her face like that.
Right.
Exactly what she is. Or
isn't it? Good.
That's a true story.
I believe it. And I tell you, more of us need to be more outspoken and stop, tipping through the tulips and all of that. I don't pull any punches. I may not go that far, but I'll tell them, get away from me. Get away from me. You're nutty.
Right. Satan, get you gone.
That's right. Be gone. That's right.
If more of us spoke that way,
yes,
politicians would not be so bold in their evil.
That's true.
Be promoting all the perversion and all critical race theory. Let's talk a little bit about critical race theory.
Okay.
And your analysis. Go ahead.
My analysis, that's one that comes from like Mao and people like that. Number one, it's a theory. How dare you think that you can take a theory that's unproven and shove it down the throats and into the heads of our children? My words for it, it's a crazy radical trash. CRT.
Right.
That is just another way for these radicals to target Black people and pretend that there is something so critical about our race relations, but they're using that to rip and destroy our society. They hate how America was founded. They hate our morals, our principles, our ethics, and they want to use our children to even get deeper and turn the children even against their own parents. We have to stop this in its tracks. And I'm so proud of those parents down in Virginia. They're standing up to this radical trash and letting the school board know they're not going to have it. And I'm so glad of that. But that's, I'm so sick and tired of all of these, like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of them trying to pretend that they're so concerned about Blacks.
What's
They're not.
amazing? What?
They're not.
Well, you saw that Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
Uh-huh.
Interestingly, his name is Whitehouse.
Whitehouse. Yes.
He was talking about critical race theory, and meanwhile, he belonged to a country club.
Yes.
Now, isn't that
and he's going to stay there. He's not leaving.
Isn't it typical of these liberal hypocrites?
Yes. They're hypocrites.
Oh man.
They're royal hypocrites. You know what? When they breathe, they lie.
Yeah.
They constantly lie. They're constantly trying to destroy the foundations of this country because they hate God so intensely.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, they worship the master of lies.
They do. They are children of hell.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And we must recognize that and fight it tooth and nail.
Now, in the communities where you just know people on a social basis, are there more like you?
No.
I mean,
they think I'm a white woman.
They're colorblind, huh?
Yeah, I know. They're messed up. Then they say, you must be a Republican. They're really cursing me out under their breath. But I just go right along with it. You know what I mean? I smile and then I hit them with something like, I tell them quite often. I said, I couldn't very well call myself a Christian and vote for people that say kill the babies. And they look at me and then they walk away.
Because they have no answer. That's why.
No answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
No answer.
You know what's so shocking about that is that, where I grew up, and I used to hang out with Dominicans and Blacks, all kinds of people. None of them back in those days went for this perversion stuff.
Right.
They did not like that stuff.
No, that's right.
What has happened that they're now supporting people who support that?
I can't answer that, but you know what? It's every place you go. I just can't answer. And then, another one thing I can say, the church used to be the strength and the pillow of the urban community of Black communities. The church has bowed down to the altar of all of this perversion. They've bowed down to the altar of anti-Semitism. They bowed down to the altar of disobeying God while you're still clapping your hands and stomping your feet and singing songs. They have bowed down. I am an ordained minister. And some of the churches I have attended, I don't sit in pulpits anymore unless I really know the pastor very well. Other than that, I sit in the audience because when they start the foolishness, I walk out. I absolutely walk out. I have seen and heard. I have only met one pastor, Black man who pastored a church. He's deceased now, who was a Republican. The rest of them was sold out for the Democratic Party. Election time, the Democrats filled the pulpit. I've even attended a service where Hillary Clinton was the morning worship speaker. Now here it is, a totally godless woman.
Yep.
Totally godless. And after she spoke, the pastor got up there and said, she is the Moses for Black people. I almost threw up.
Moses. Whoa.
Yes, yes, yes.
She makes Pharaoh look good.
She does. She really does. She does. She does.
Oh Lord.
Yes, 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 yes. I was there because as a member of the Democratic Club, we were commanded to show up at that church on her 35th. So I was there. I heard it for myself. I haven't recorded it. I talked about it in my book, but that's how disgusting it is.
Are there any people that secretly say to you, listen, Barbara, we're afraid to say so, but we actually kind of agree with you? You ever get that?
Once in a while, once in a while, you know, very seldom. But the good news is, I met a lady. Well, she called me, and she is converted. She has converted from just, she voted in this last election, she told me, for Donald Trump, and she's converted 3 of her friends. She lives there in the projects in Brooklyn. I've never visited a house. It's strictly through the telephone. And I told her, and she goes to church regularly. So I just gave her some Bible verses, and we talked and talked and talked. And but she's afraid to tell her friends, other than the 3 that she's already talked to and converted them. When she goes around some of her other friends, they're very rude to her, because I guess she let it out some kind of way or whatever. But so sometimes it works, sometimes it works.
Wow. Wow.
Yes, yes,
I'll tell you, it is tough. I think you
it
probably
is.
would have more commiseration down south than you have here
And
north.
well, that they're brainwashed there also, because I go down there and visit because I have a son who lives down in DeLand, Florida. I can't stand his church.
Oh boy.
I
Oh,
mean, I pray when I go in the door, because I go out of respect for God to let me go to sleep, because I know what they're going to say, because it's the same thing over and over. I went down there, I was visiting him when it was an election between Bush and Kerry. I don't even think there was a car in the parking lot that didn't have a Kerry sticker on it. I talked to the pastor because I know him. And I said, do you realize that this man believes in killing babies, et cetera, but your congregation seems like you're voting for him? He gave me no response, no explanation. That was that.
wow.
And even, they're completely brainwashed.
You know what's blowing my mind? The deification of Saint Fentanyl Floyd and
Oh my gosh.
the statues they're putting up for this guy. This is a guy who put a gun in the pregnant stomach
Yes,
of a
yes,
black woman.
yes, yes.
And listen, whether or not the police acted properly, that's an issue of debate. But to turn this thug, this criminal who was selling drugs,
Absolutely.
children,
Yes,
drugs are destroying black kids, and he's selling it to them,
right.
and you're putting up a statue for this guy?
Well, this is just another indication of who they worship and whose children they are. Just like when people say, we're all God's children, I nicely and gracefully correct them. We're not. Now, this is just an indication of who they worship. Why would you put a statue of somebody with such a history? And that was his history. That makes no sense. That's very demonic. That's very dark. And that's just an excuse for them to go around pulling down statues that they didn't pay for, trying to destroy our history. That's just another way of using another Black person, dead or alive, good or bad, to try to destroy America. That's all that is.
Yeah. Well, just this past week, they ripped up a grave down south of a Confederate general and his wife, and they ripped out the graves.
Yes.
I mean, these people have no decency whatsoever.
None, none, none.
You know, people that go and to any grave, I don't care who it is, and get
Right.
involved in that, they have to be demons.
They are. They're demonic. They're
Yeah,
demonic.
I wouldn't even want to walk at night in
Right.
the cemetery.
Absolutely.
And these people are going to go and uproot the graves. And Robert E. Lee, I've read a lot about him.
Yes.
Actually, a Christian gentleman, and had a lot of character and a lot of honor. And
Yes.
the Union generals respected him.
Right. Right.
And now he's a demon.
Right.
He's in
Right.
favor of the Civil War because he didn't want to have a war. But when his town, his people were attacked, he had no choice but to defend his homeland.
Right.
And now forget about it. He's a demon, and George Floyd is a hero.
That doesn't even make any sense. Well, we know who the demonic imps are. Those that are putting up a statue of somebody who has such a history. But it doesn't make any difference as long as they're Black and they can say, oh, America is so racist. This happened to our hero, blah, 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 blah. All of this is a front and an excuse to play on something that happened, which was unfortunate, to a Black man, and make it as if this is a national or worldwide travesty.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, the jurors,
Sad.
the jurors admitted that they were engaging in protests against the police officer before the trial.
Wow.
And they lied when they were questioned before the trial,
Yes.
and they denied that. So as a matter of law, when you have jurors that lied in order to get on the jury, the case has to be retried and open.
Yes. Okay.
But the people running our judicial system and our political system are such immoral cowards.
Yes.
That they will never have the courage to overturn that case. You cannot have a case where you have jurors that are so biased.
Right.
The idea is to have jurors that have no preconceptions and are going to judge the case on its merits. But today, we no longer have people that can look at the facts and the evidence and not care about the color and just judge it based on that. When I handle a trial as a lawyer, I'm not looking at the color of the people involved. I've represented people of all colors. I'm looking at the facts and I'm looking at the evidence.
Yes.
Hey, that is out. Logic is out. It's nothing but emotion.
Yes.
And now we've turned men into women.
You're right about that now.
And so men act like women.
Yes, they do. Yes.
All emotion.
Yes. You know, they have been successful in removing God from the public square. Men don't know how to be men. And I don't even hear women talking about being ladies anymore. I see women who are seasoned women, my age and older and even young. I mean, trying to look like a thug, a teenage thug. I mean, they got the cap on sideways and the boots and just looking like thugs.
I've been told by women,
wow,
that when I refer to them as ladies, they told me that I'm insulting them by calling them ladies.
No.
I used to think that that was a compliment.
It is a compliment. They're backwards.
So I responded to them by saying, would you prefer hose? Because that's what most of them are today anyway.
That's true. That's true. When I see some of these women in those skin tight pants, I said to myself, who are they trying to pick up?
My wife says that women's liberation came and went, but I never noticed.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wow.
I really don't belong on this planet. So you and I, we gotta find another
We
planet.
got five places. Yes, you're right.
Well,
No,
anyway,
I like to agitate people, so I'm gonna stay right here.
well, you know what? My wife complained to one of my friends about all the troublemaking I cause,
Uh-huh.
and she said he's uncontrollable. So my friend said to her, actually, he's perfectly capable of controlling himself. He just doesn't want to.
No, that's right.
Do you remember? You've been around. Do you remember my rabbi, Rabbi Meir Kahana, the head of the Jewish Defense League?
The name sounds so familiar.
He was this radical religious Jew who went around in the streets protecting elderly Jewish people from muggers in Brooklyn back
Yes,
in
yes.
1970s. And
Okay.
he was murdered at the Marriott Hotel in New York City, Rabbi Meir Kahana, by the
Right.
same Arab who was involved in that mosque with the blind sheik in New Jersey.
Oh yeah. Right, right, right.
And they had a black jury in the murder trial of the killer of Rabbi Kahana, and that communist Kunstler Kubi, you know, that
Mm.
Kubi, he
Yes.
he was the lawyer for the Muslim killer, and they had a black jury,
Mm.
and Kubi and Kunstler told the black jury that Rabbi Kahana was a racist, which was
Lord have mercy.
untrue, because when you go to, he lived in Israel. If you go to Israel, I was with Jews that are much, much darker than Africans.
Oh yes. Yes.
Many, many, many thousands. They're in the Israeli army.
Yes.
And so he said, I'm not a racist. I am a religionist.
Amen. A
I
religionist.
stick up for Jewish people. I don't care what color that they happen to be. I don't care about a person's color. But all the lawyer had to do was tell the jury
That he was a racist.
without any real proof whatsoever.
No proof. No proof.
And even though there were 20 witnesses to the murder, they found him innocent.
I believe it. I
And
believe it.
if you remember, there was a rabbi
Yeah.
in Crown Heights who was visiting from Australia during the time of David Dinkins. And he was stabbed in the heart
Yeah.
in the Crown Heights riot, where David Dinkins said, we have to let them vent their anger. And he didn't send in the police to protect the Jewish people. And this poor guy who was visiting his mother from Australia, minding his own business, got a knife in his heart. And the jury found the killer innocent, even though he confessed and had the blood on the knife in his pocket. And after the trial, the jury took the killer out for dinner.
Lord have mercy. Oh my God. Out to dinner.
Yes,
Oh my God.
they had a party for him. Okay. And there
Oh
were
my God.
very few people, except for Roy Innes,
Yeah.
stuck up for that poor Jewish rabbi. Poor guy was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And there was also an Italian man who was murdered.
Mm.
He was a
Mm.
professor at City College, but he had a beard. So these thugs thought
Yeah. Thought he was Jewish.
because he had a beard, even though
Yes.
he was Italian, and they murdered him as well and got away with it.
Wow.
And it really comes down to, Barbara, that you have to go by principles.
Absolutely.
a person goes by principles, it's like in a baseball game, you have an umpire.
Yeah.
And the umpire doesn't care if the pitcher or the hitter is black or
All right.
he
Right.
calls it as he sees it. If
True.
it's a strike, he says it's a strike. He's not looking at color.
True. True.
That's what we need to be.
Yes.
That's what decent people, whatever is
Yes.
left of them, are.
Absolutely.
We don't have too many decent people, Barbara. That's the truth.
Unfortunately, we don't. You know, I looked at Pew Research, and it gives a large number of people in America, Black, white, Hispanic, that believe in God. Well, it's hard for me to believe that that's accurate, and I believe some of the people lied. Because if you do believe in God, you have a conscience. And if you have a conscience, you couldn't ignore the facts. Facts are facts. It's not your opinion, and they don't change. These people don't think that they're anything that they can do these things, and they don't have to answer at all to anyone. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to believe that the Pew Research is accurate, because I believe a lot of people lie. Because if 79% of Blacks believe in God, 74% of Hispanics and 70% of white people believe in God. Those were the three categories that they had listed. How is America so inundated with so much corruption in our FBI, corruption in our court systems, and American people not even believing in right and wrong anymore? You know, they think up is down and down is up, and that there are no consequences or no moral standards left. You know,
Well,
it's very shocking.
what they should have done is they should have gone to the Torah, what the Christians call the Old Testament,
Yes.
and they should have asked them from the book of Leviticus,
Okay.
do you think that is right or wrong? And then
Right.
go through what
Absolutely.
are prohibited, and then
Right.
see if they agree with it or they don't agree with it.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
they they wouldn't know what to say. I don't know if they would lie.
They
But
probably run out of there.
most of them, you know, they think it's the 10 suggestions, not the
Yes.
commandments, right? And they think it's Adam and Steve and not Adam and Eve.
You're right about that. That's right.
So, Barbara, time is running out.
All right.
Repeat again how people can learn more about you and get your book. Give us that information again.
Well, our website is barbarafromharlem.com, where you can go. You know, we try to put interesting little articles up there, blogs, and also you can order our book. And if you order from our website, then I will send you an autographed copy. You can also go to Amazon or any of those outlets, and you can get a copy of Escaping the Racism of Low Expectations by Barbara from Harlem. And
You
we're
got that
also on
right.
social media. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter somewhat, and I'm on Instagram, Barbara from Harlem.
They haven't kicked you off yet?
Yeah, they wiped me out on Facebook totally. So I'm rebuilding. I had 5,000 friends and 25,000 followers, 24 plus followers, and they wiped all of it out, all of my videos and everything. Yeah.
Well, Barbara, your soul will never be wiped out.
Amen.
And may more like you be fruitful and multiply. We got a tough job ahead of us.
And like you also.
Oh, thank you. And God bless you. And we got to get together in the future.
Yes, I look forward to that. And thank you so much for having me. This has been a delightful time. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
You got that right.